Rebecca Walser's with us, President Walser Wealth Management. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Nicole.
Busy week. We'll have Jay Powell on Wednesday and Thursday. What are you listening for?
Well, I definitely have noted that the Fed has turned more hawkish. So in December, when they had the pause and they saw the dot plot showed us 3 cuts and the market already priced in 6, I said, whoa, the market's way ahead of its skis here. And now the market really is having to adjust, Nicole, to the Fed taking a much more hawkish tone. Even Bostic, he made comments in January that said he even wanted to potentially see some geopolitical conflicts kind of have some time to work out because, geopolitical conflict, any kind of global world war that the United States has to get involved in would certainly affect the markets and certainly affect Fed policy and maybe potentially send us back to stimulus, quantitative easing from quantitative tightening. So they're really becoming hawkish to make this market tamper down their expectations.
So at this point now, you're not expecting a cut, right?
Not now.
You're saying hawkish, that certainly doesn't say cut. That
Right.
either says higher for longer or even a hike.
Yep.
I guess, what do you think about the summer, June, July?
Yeah, I do think that, even Bostic, like I said yesterday, he said 1 rate cut by Q3. So I think maybe June is the probability CME Watch is really looking for June. And then he said very clearly, and he's a voting member this year, that they would look at a pause to see, kind of assess how the market would impact with that, and then potentially one additional cut. So maybe only 2 cuts this year, Nicole, which is very different than the 6 that the market was pricing in December.
Right, and they were really pricing that in, as you pointed out, and there was a lot of excitement. And what's interesting is the resiliency of the consumer and the resiliency of this market.
Yeah.
Last Friday, we hit our 15th close of the S&P 500, and that was yet another record.
I know.
People are still in this buy the dip mentality,
Yeah.
right? Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, irrational exuberance from Alan Greenspan kind of comes back to my memory, like maybe that is applicable because, if you look at the underlying fundamentals globally, we see a lot of global, Japan in recession, UK in recession, China, 7 trillion market cap gone, property market decimated. So I'm not sure where the American exuberance comes from other than saying the rest of the world maybe is on fire and so the US dollar's got the strength. But I do feel that we're not in that place anymore with the BRICS alignment. And with so many countries moving away from the dollar, we really do have some issues with that.
And that's worrisome too, because you have an election, which will be a wild card.
Exactly.
You have all these geopolitical events, to your
Exactly.
point. So what's your advice?
I think that investors need to prepare with an election year, Nicole. We saw in 2020, if there's any kind of outlier that comes forward, the market cannot handle. This is a very shallow, we're talking about the Mag 7, and really we're talking now about the Mag 4, because you see Tesla pulling back 7% down yesterday. You saw Apple, you just had the story on Apple, 24%, 6 weeks cut. They're now the 4th largest in China with what's happening. So, you've got a lot of the Mag 7. So you can't expect NVIDIA to carry the entire market for the entire year. So unless there's some more broadening out and more support, AI and tech, yes, long runway, beginning of that new revolution. However, is it going to have a massive impact for just 2024? It's going to be hard to put that much pressure on NVIDIA.
So should investors, if you like NVIDIA and you think AI and tech are here to stay, it's not a fad, that this is real, do you advise ETFs or tech overall, or are you picking specific names?
It's so hard to tell people to buy in at really high prices, and the market I think is kind of really, really high. However, if you look at NVIDIA and you look at its compounding annual growth projections on the AI side, we're looking at 60% long-term growth for the next 5 years. So I do think that NVIDIA has a very long runway. The rest of the economy, the rest of the individual stocks, Nicole, it's going to be hard. I would wait until we have maybe some pullback with some kind of news, and that's when I would get, because these prices are really high.
We're going to have a special feature looking at gold and Bitcoin.
Love it.
And how they both have been hitting these new highs.
Yes.
Kevin Green has been preparing that. But what do you tell folks when they say, maybe I want to buy some gold or maybe I want to buy some Bitcoin? Do you have advice for people on that, or what do you think about the moves we're seeing?
This is the year for those moves, because I do see some pain ahead. I do see some events ahead that will potentially leading up to the election that could roll the markets. And so I do think this is a year for intrinsic assets. That would be hard assets, gold, yes. And crypto is new in the space when we think of where can we really store value. But there has been proof of concept on Bitcoin, BTC. And, it hit at 69,000 in November 2021. And we're starting to get there. And it's a two-pronged thing with Bitcoin, Nicole. It's the ETF, so now you've got a bigger ability to get in, so there's more demand.
Right.
And you also have it halving again on its
Yeah, in
mining,
April.
so you've got supply coming down in April. So you have a two-prong, higher demand, lower supply, and so I think long-term Bitcoin, but you're going to have to hold through it. It's not going to just go straight up from here. It's going to be volatile like it has been, and it's
Right.
going to long-term play.
Yeah, interesting, because you said proof of concept, right? The intrinsic assets, gold, we always know,
Yes, of course.
was a safe haven.
Yeah.
And now the question is, what is Bitcoin? How much is it worth?
Yeah.
How long will it last?
Yeah.
You know, because we haven't, over the last 10 years, we're sort of getting used to it.
Yeah.
But what about the next 10, 20, 30 years? We don't really have the historical data like we do on gold.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rebecca
Thank you,
Walser,
Nicole.
President of Walser Wealth Management. Thank you so much for being with us.